Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm sitting this way so that you can see my cute dress. So whether you've been following along on my sewing journey or this is your very first time watching one of my videos, welcome. Thanks for watching. And if you have been watching along on my sewing journey, you'll know that most of my costumes are made out of thrifted materials. The very first princess dress I ever sewed was for my little sister, and it was made out of bed sheets and a sheer curtain. After that, I made this Tiana costume for my little sister made out of curtain, I believe. I also made this Jasmine costume for my sister made out of an old prom dress. And once I got comfortable sewing costumes for my littlest sister, I started sewing things for myself as well. But fabric is so expensive, so again, I started using thrifted materials. It's a little bit harder when you're trying to make a costume or an outfit for an adult-sized body. I am on the shorter, petite side, so that does help. Although I believe that anyone can make a thrifted princess dress. You just have to get really creative with your materials. I made this Tiana costume for myself out of a curtain, some old shears, a bed sheet, and I also made this Cinderella costume for myself out of an old curtain that my sister had thrifted for me, a sheer curtain, and even this grandma cardigan. As the years have gone on, I've gotten more creative too, where I started using bed sheets to make outfits as well. Anyway, I don't want to say that thrifting is a great way to save money, but it's a great way to spend less money than you would if you were buying new materials. The princesses that I find the easiest to thrift for and make are going to be Cinderella, because you can usually find lots of blues and whites at the thrift stores, Tiana, because again, you can usually find lots of greens and whites at the thrift store, and Snow White. This is because her skirt and her bodice are both different colors, so even if you only find a small tablecloth or one curtain of an item, you can still make the costume pretty easily. Alright, I'm all done at Walmart. I have the goods, and they actually had the most perfect colored tools, so it worked out beautifully. Goodwill just opened like 2 minutes ago. So I've got about 30 minutes, 40 minutes or so in the Goodwill, and then it's off to church. When I walk into a thrift store, the very first section I go into is the dress section. Unfortunately, this Goodwill barely had any dresses, but I did see some wedding gowns at the very end, and we all know I love collecting wedding gowns. But for that price, it was a hard pass. Absolutely not. I also saw this dress, but again, for that price, no thank you. I also found some honorable mentions, like this vest, this random something, this cute little owl, and look at this little Pooh Bear dress. I had something similar to this when I was little. Then it was off to the linen section. I found this tablecloth, and this decided my project for me. We were going to make Snow White. So I got this cute little tablecloth. I bought 4 of these placemats that have this really pretty like flower embroidery on them. Also, it's nice because they're lined and they were under $1 each. I found this other pillowcase with very Snow Whitey looking lace. Not a terrible price either. So now that I had a skirt, red for the slash sleeves, and some white for the petticoats and linings, it was time to look for something blue. Also, I liked that bed skirt thing. Anyway, I looked through all the rest of the linens and I just didn't find the right blue for the bodice. So then I went into the women's blouse section and I found this nice top, and because it was a red tag, I got some kind of discount. I don't know if it was 50% off or like 20%, but there was a discount. I also went into the men's section and got some slacks with a red tag as well. I just about had a heart attack. The lady at the counter, I swear, she said, "Your total is $76. And I was like, there is no way, but like, I got a ton of stuff. And if I had gone to like an actual fabric store, it probably would have been like $300. So I was like, well, maybe there's a way, but it ended up being $36, so all is right in the world. Still probably more than I should have spent. I probably shouldn't have spent anything at all. I shouldn't have even gone in the first place. Also, I totally felt something pop in my arm the last couple minutes of shopping, and my arm is tingling. Like, my hand is sparkly right now, so. And maybe you're wondering, why didn't you just use a shopping cart? But the thing is if you use a shopping cart, you are going to get more and spend more money. If you only buy what you can carry, then that's less money you're spending. Also, look at this interesting vehicle that was pulling out of the parking lot before I left. I bought some things for my Aurora costume, and then I bought all of this, which is not going towards the Snow White costume, but I wanted options. Once I went through my options, I decided to go with these items right here and just kind of hold on to the other items in case I end up needing them for a different project later. Or even this project, it's possible that I underestimated the amount of items I needed and I'll end up having to pull from that stash. Anyway, my grand total is $19.88 minus the discount. I did have to use some new items as well, including grommets and some zip ties for boning, and then I also had some thrifted thread, some thrifted bias tape, and the good thing is I only ended up using one of the placemats for this, so that saved me a whole extra $1 too. Now that we have all the materials sorted out, it's time to start sewing. But wait a second, haven't we already made a Snow White costume on this channel?
So I was thinking, I should make myself a Snow White costume. brown, or pumpkin spice tan.
Yep, I thought we had. I originally sewed this costume for my sister, and I used this old dress right here, this pattern, and some red scraps, and I made a beautiful bodice that I really like. Has some fit issues, but I really do like it. When I made this bodice, I did not actually make a skirt or any petticoats to go with it. I happened to have a yellow tulle skirt from when my sisters and I did an Easter photo shoot little thing, and I just paired it with that, and I made it a Snow White ballerina. It was super, super cute. And then at some point I decided that I wanted to make a longer skirt, a better skirt. So that's exactly what I did. I went to 3 different thrift stores and I could not find anything that was going to work for a Snow White skirt though. Finally, at the 3rd thrift store, I just gave up and I bought what I could, which was this, which turned into this skirt. And it's a lovely, lovely skirt. It looks really nice. The color's actually gorgeous. This skirt is made out of like a blackout curtain or something. It is very, very heavy. It has all of this like white fuzzy stuff in it. This is the inside of the waistband and this is the outside. It actually looks better on the inside. I don't know what I did there. It's also a little too small for me, so this poor zipper is constantly popping apart. And basically the skirt part that's connected to the waistband was kind of a mixture of pleats and gathers. It's a really thick material and it was bulking up super badly. So instead of trying to actually cut this off and serge it or finish it off, or even enclose it in the waistband, I just opted to leave the already sewn edges of this curtain just like this. It works and it's gorgeous in pictures, but it is just so heavy and that poor zipper can barely handle it anymore. You can kind of see here that I had to lengthen the waistband or something. I'm not really sure what I was doing. I think originally I'd intended on folding this over so that I could hand sew all of those raw, aka not really raw, edges down. But again, this would have made the waistband even thicker and chunkier and it doesn't work. But I did buy 2 fabrics for the Snow White fabric. I bought this more golden one, which I'm going to use for this video's costume, and I also bought this extra one that was going to go in my stash. So let's make a new skirt. I had used some ribbon to make loops on the back of this bodice, but I had used some really horribly awful thrifted red ribbon that completely shred and broke apart with any tension. I ended up replacing the loops, but I kept using that horrible ribbon for the lacing, and at this point they were just no good. Now, unlike the rectangular tablecloth that I just used to make the other skirt, this is a circular tablecloth. There is a distinct line pattern going through it, but this does mean that I will have to make a circle skirt, and it's going to have a bias and a straight grain. I am worried about the stretch of this skirt once I hang it up, and I don't want to have to recut and rehem since it already has this nice hem. So for the moment, I'm not going to worry about it. I went ahead and folded this skirt up and started cutting the waist in a very unscientific method. Basically, I just keep cutting little by little until I'm able to measure it with my measuring tape and get my waist measurement. There are circle skirt calculators and pen and paper, but I don't want to math. Now for this structured bodice, vest, or corset, or whatever you want to call it, I will be using these men's pants. These slacks have a little bit of stiffness to them, but they're also nice and soft. For the over bodice, I will just be using this vest pattern right here. I'm going to tweak it a little bit, and I'm not going to have those little sleevey things right there, and I'm going to make it work for me. Looking back on this project now, as I'm doing this voiceover, I realized that I probably should have made a mock-up of the vest because it was a little bit too long in the straps for my particular shoulders. Basically what I've done is I've cut and opened both of the pant legs so that I have a nice piece of fabric to work off of. I opened up the crotch seam and inner leg seam, but I have kept the outer hip, outer leg seam. And that is because even though this is supposed to go on a fold, I'm going to put it on the seam. And I figure why make myself re-sew it if it's already sewn? Whenever you're making an outfit or a costume from thrifted materials, you have to get a little bit creative like that. Sometimes you have to just deal with seams being in weird places and you have to kind of piece and match the fabric together. Sometimes you're going to have to go against or on the bias even if you shouldn't, which doesn't always work out very well. And a lot of the times it's just moving your pattern pieces around over and over and over again until you find a way that they're all going to fit onto your fabric. So although I 100% recommend thrifting fabric as a way to spend less money when you first start sewing, or even after you've been sewing for years like I have. It's not always the best way to learn because it can be really discouraging when you don't have enough fabric or your projects don't turn out correctly because of that reason. It definitely makes the whole process a lot more difficult, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a talent, but you definitely have to learn how to adapt. I'm not gonna go super detailed since I'm using a pattern that you could buy, but it's looking really good so far. I really like it. It looks nice. This is the lining, and this is the outer bit from the men's slacks. So this is what I have for the bodice so far. Very cute. At this point, I could already tell that the bodice was a little bit big and gappy in the back and then also around the armpit, but I decided not to do anything about it, as you will see later on. Right now, I'm top stitching the vest. A nice little trick when you're top stitching is to move your needle all the way over to the right. On my machine, I just move it over like this. It's going to help keep more fabric under your presser foot and on top of the feed dogs, and it's going to keep you from running over the edge and zigzagging around. It just makes it look a lot nicer. Here you can see my top stitching. It's actually not completely even. Right here I got closer to the edge, and here I'm a little further away from the edge, but you get the point. I'm not running off of the edge of the fabric, and if you've ever had problems with that, this definitely helps. I opened up my bias tape, and even though I know how to use it, I decided it might be fun to read the little instructions because they're just so old-fashioned. And look how neat is this. Does your child sew? Send 3 labels and $1 for a generous package of clippings of Wright's trimmings for dolls' clothes. Allow about 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. Includes zip code with address. I wonder if that's still their headquarters, and if I tried sending in 3 labels, I wonder what would happen. So basically, as I said earlier, I finished off the bottom with some bias tape, and then I added in some grommets. I didn't have any ribbon specifically picked out for this project, so I just grabbed a little piece from my stash. It was this different blue color, but it looks all right. You can kind of see the gappiness in the straps. They were definitely a little too long, but it's okay. It's kind of hard to see because the blues are a bit similar, but I have the corset top on, and underneath I have that shirt. I have not done anything to that shirt yet. I also have my shirt and some shorts on. Just ignore that. But basically, this shirt is all I have to make the underblouse slash dress slash bodice, whatever you want to call it, and then the puffy sleeves. My plan is to chop off all of this bottom part to give me some fabric for the sleeves, and then I might even cut a panel out all the way along the back and maybe even in the sides here, and then I'll fill it in with the white sheet I have. That way I have more of this blue fabric for the sleeves. I'm also thinking about cutting the neckline down a bit because I don't like how high it is. Originally what I wanted to do was have some really structured big puffy sleeves, kind of like my last Snow White costume, but I'm realizing that's not really going to be possible with this silky material, which I realize is hard for you to see because of all the different blues going on. So I think now I'm just going to go for kind of like some saggy light sleeves, and I might even end up doing some like off the shoulder sleeves that kind of peek out, but I'm not 100% sure yet just because I have limited amount of fabric. I will have to say that is the one bad thing about thrifting costumes, is that you have to let the materials and the fabric you choose decide what you're going to make, not the other way around. You can definitely go into your project with a really strong plan and design idea, but it's not always going to come out just because, you know, fabric. So you have to go into it with an open mind. Thrifting fabric and thrifting princess dresses is definitely a process that you just have to let unfold, enjoy the process, and have fun, and you're going to come out with something magical anyway. Another thing about thrifting fabric, once you cut into it, you've cut into it. There's no going back. You can't just go buy another yard at the thrift store. So be careful. Right now I have the bottom cut off and both of the sleeves. I am going to lower the neckline because I don't really like how high it is. Or it's not that I don't like how high it is, but I don't like how low the corset is versus how high the neckline is. Like, it looks very disproportionate or something. And then if I do end up needing more fabric, I will cut out some of the back and then sew in some white. I'm probably also going to sew some white in and either make this into a longer blouse or a dress, just so that this isn't riding up, and it'll also help me finish it off. I decided to do something crazy and I made the sleeves from scratch, no pattern. For this sleeve, I put the right sides to the wrong side of the inner bodice. And then for this sleeve, I'm going to put the right sides to the right side on. That way the lining's on the inside, the outer parts on the outside, and all of the raw edges will be encased within, and then it will just leave a raw edge along the end, which I can bind. I'm going to probably just bind this or roll hem it, and then I might end up adding some length with the white sheet, but I'm not for sure yet. So I ended up cutting the neckline too big, and now the top won't stay up. I wanted to just make a lower neckline, and I accidentally cut like a boat neck. I didn't accidentally, I did it on purpose, but I didn't realize that what I was doing. I did it on purpose, but like I didn't really realize what I was doing. I kind of forgot about the fact that I was making it boat necked, I guess. So what I wanted was for the top to kind of sit like this, so that the sleeves would puff out. Also, I did not add elastic or anything to the sleeves because I wanted to prove that you could do this with all thrifted materials, because I have before. Anyway, so like the sleeves are supposed to be up. The way they kind of poof out of the corset top, like this, sort of. I know that doesn't look great, but that's what I wanted to happen. But they just keep falling down, and it doesn't look horrible, I guess. I think it just makes it look a little too like muscle shirt-like too much arm and shoulder. I guess it's kind of cute. I don't really like how it looks from the back though. It looks pretty bad from the back. I don't know, not really what I was going for, so I'm gonna try pinning it and see what that looks like. It definitely looks more what I was going for with the pins in, but I don't know. I think I might end up making another top. We'll see.